I'm Keith Johnson, and this year marks my 42nd birthday. I started working at a trading company as soon as I finished from college, but I was completely unprepared for the change. After 12 years in the trade company, I currently work at my uncle's coffee shop. I was a bit of an unemployed person. I got disinterested in everything, and even interacting with people became terrifying. One may readily characterize my way of life as secluded. My uncle, a coffee enthusiast who founded his own specialty store, was the one who saved me from this. I began helping out in the shop a little haphazardly at first. However, I quickly discovered that the appeal of coffee was enthralling me more and more. In retrospect, I firmly believe this was my uncle's plan. I'm inherently shy and have trouble relating to others. I was shy and introverted. Even though I'm 42, I've never had a girlfriend. I know, it's embarrassing. But there's a reason for this, and I must correct the record. The majority of the people in the home where I grew up were women. I was left with my mother and two strong-willed sisters after my father died of illness too soon. In addition, I had two younger sisters who were even more aggressive. To put it mildly, my apartment at home was tiny. Being surrounded by strong women as a child made me respect and fear women. I became a man too scared to go near them. I don't mind the older women who frequent the store, but that's about it. I am even referred to as Keith in passing by Emma, a girl from the neighboring primary school. That demonstrates my inferior status. Coffee aficionados congregate at my uncle's coffee shop virtually every day. I still have a lot to learn because many of them are much more knowledgeable than I am. At work, I can't function without a notepad. I write down everything I see or learn to help me remember. It's what my uncle refers to as my secret notebook. I was holding my notebook and examining new coffee beans one day when the doorbell jingled. "Excuse me, hello." When he saw me, he pushed his wheelchair closer to the desk and greeted me with a smile. With just his arm power, he moved from his wheelchair to the counter stool with ease. He completed it easily, as usual. Alex Miller, who uses a wheelchair, is a frequent customer of the store. I wasn't sure how to behave when we first met. Shall I assist him? If so, how could I help him? I was just able to worry. Alex, as today, sat down at the counter and chuckled as I stood there fretting. Don't look at me like I'm performing a circus act. Alex and I became close friends the moment we met. For me, Alex, a frequent customer and coffee enthusiast, is a wealth of information. I listened to Alex offer his wisdom since I was eager to learn everything. Alex is only 28 this year, which makes him 14 years younger than me, but he appears much more mature than me, even though we are great friends. He seems to have had a much richer life than I have. Alex was usually happy, even though he likely had problems he couldn't talk about. He's the type of guy who finds it funny that I gave up my work and spent a few years at home. At the moment, Alex works from home as a translator and frequently stops by the shop to rest. He frequently uses his laptop to work at the counter till closing. Many of our frequent clients are Alex supporters as well. It's a little daunting how polished and ridiculously attractive Alex is. He and I once went clothing shopping together. My go-to outfit for formal occasions is now the one Alex picked out for me. It's just waiting for the right occasion. However, even Alex, who is perfect, has a weakness. Alex has a twin sister. He just doesn't seem to be able to handle her. I've been to Alex's house a few times. I've met his mom, but I've never met his sister. I heard some somewhat scary rumors from our regular customers around the same age at the shop. The most common rumor is that she used to be a punk. I didn't ask Alex directly, but I heard this from our regulars and the clerk. As someone who's not good with women, assertive women are my worst nightmare. I swore to myself that I would definitely keep my distance. Who would have thought such a turn of events was waiting for me? That day, after working at the shop until closing time, I drove Alex home. His home is on the way, so it's no big deal to drive him. At the entrance, I ran into Alex's mother, Marianne, who had just come back from her part-time job. It had been a while since I last saw her. Marianne has a strikingly beautiful face. As we were making small talk, Marianne suddenly clapped her hands together as if she had an idea. Then she said to me, "Keith, would you like to go on a blind date?" I was flabbergasted at the sudden proposal, but Marianne, with a grin on her face, moved the conversation forward. Basically, she was suggesting that I go on a blind date with the rumored sister. The words ex-delinquent almost slipped out of my mouth, but I managed to hold it back. Alex said, "That's a great idea." Surrounded by the parent and child, I felt cornered with no way out. She's a bit older, but I think a gentle guide like you would be perfect for Evelyn. That was the first time I learned her name. Apparently, she's currently living alone and working as an office worker at a printing company in the neighboring town, Nebraska. The fact that she hasn't been around since she started working only fuels the ex-troublemaker theory, but I don't know anything about her and shouldn't assume her thoughts on this matter too. Marian smiled at my fled response. Everyone's a stranger on a blind date. It'll be fine. I had no rebuttal to her completely reasonable opinion. In the end, they kind of pressured me into agreeing to meet her sooner. The sooner, the better, they said, and the date and location were decided on the spot. Marian was quick to set everything up before I could change my mind. The following Sunday, a somewhat fancy cafe in the middle of a park. That's where I was going to meet Alex's sister for a blind date. The weather was incredibly nice, and the park was filled with families. When I told my uncle that it was a blind date, he let me have the day off without a second thought. Alex would be there too, figuring I'd be nervous at first. I wore the outfit Alex had chosen for me and waited for them to arrive. "Keith, sorry to keep you waiting," Alex's voice called out. I turned around to see Alex in his wheelchair smiling. Standing behind him was a woman who looked just like him, a real beauty. Upon seeing her, I was momentarily lost for words. I thought, I've never seen such a beautiful woman before. She had the same face as Alex, whom I was so used to seeing, but she was incredibly beautiful, and she looked very grumpy, probably forced to come here by Alex. Her face seemed to be saying, "I'm not happy about this." "Oh, this is my sister Evelyn. She's a 28-year-old office worker," Alex introduced. Evelyn gave a small nod in response. I nodded my head and mumbled, "Nice to meet you." I was already nervous about this blind date, and seeing such a beauty made me lose my words. "Are you both nervous?" Alex teased without missing a beat. Evelyn's hand slapped the back of Alex's head. She's quick, I thought. There might be some truth to the rumor that she used to be a bit of a wild one. "Don't tease people like that," Evelyn said in a slightly husky voice. For someone like me, who isn't a fan of the high-pitched voices typical of some girls, Evelyn's voice was perfect. I don't remember much of what happened after that. Alex kept the conversation flowing, and I responded with yes and no. That was our blind date. When Alex left, we sat in silence, and time seemed to stand still. Thank you for today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day off too." Evelyn's eyes met mine as I began to stutter, feeling as though I was being stared at by her. My words trailed off. "No, I should apologize. Alex and the others pushed you into this," Evelyn said, bowing her head. She seemed far removed from her wild past, which left me speechless. As I sat in stunned silence, Evelyn stood up quickly, grabbed the check, and said, "Well then." Before leaving, her brisk movements didn't give me a chance to stop her, leaving me stunned. I didn't expect to be left alone, and she even paid the bill. At least the blind date mission was accomplished. I gazed at the park, thinking that as long as we had met, Alex and the others would be satisfied. The next day, when Alex came into the shop, he asked me about what happened after he left. But there was no progress and nothing to talk about. Evelyn left before me. I said, trying not to look at Alex. He then handed me his phone. "Call Evelyn and set up the next date," he said. I pushed Alex's phone back, repeating, "I can't do that." She seemed so unhappy, and I was sure she didn't want to see me again. I let her pay for the coffee, even though she's 14 years younger, and I figured she must be annoyed. As we shoved phones back and forth across the counter, the doorbell rang, announcing a customer. "Welcome," I said reflexively, greeting the customer with a smile. Then I froze. There she was, Evelyn, with a sour look on her face. I nodded to Evelyn and moved over to Alex. "Evelyn, are you off work today?" Alex asked, surprised to see her out and about on a weekday. "I took a day off," she replied. "You see, there was a solo exhibition for Professor. But more importantly, you shouldn't be going out dressed so lightly," she added, placing a blanket on Alex's knee. In her hand, she held a small silver oil heater. She probably brought it because she was concerned about Alex, who tends to feel unwell when it gets cold. "Oh, the woodcarving exhibition, right? It's next week, isn't it?" Apparently, she had come to help set up the woodcarving exhibition that starts next week at the community center. Evelyn, a graduate of a fine arts college, seems to have majored in wood carving. It's difficult to make a living solely from it, so she's now selling small wooden carvings as a side job. "I have some of my works there too. You should check them out," Evelyn said with a light smile. Her whole demeanor changes when she smiles. She has a beauty that seems somewhat irritable when she's not smiling, but when she smiles, she looks cute. It's a softer image than I had of her during our blind date, and it's quite a pleasant surprise. Maybe this is where I need to muster up my courage. I plucked up the courage to speak to Evelyn. Thank you for the other day," I said. Evelyn, upon hearing my sudden address, seemed taken aback. Her shoulders shivered. Without looking at me, she answered in a small voice, "You're welcome." For some reason, I didn't feel like she disliked me. I might be conceited, but she seemed shy. "Would you like to go out sometime?" I blurted out the words before I even realized it. It seems like my desire to know more about her got the better of me. Seeing her surprised look, I pressed on. Eventually, after my plea to go out on another date, Evelyn gave in. This was the first time I had ever pleaded so earnestly with someone. Of course, this was all thanks to Alex's support. I don't think I could have invited her out on my own. Our date was set for 3 days later. The meeting time was in the evening after work. I waited for her in front of a bookstore, our designated meeting place. She arrived right on time. It wasn't as tense as a blind date, but I was feeling jittery and couldn't calm down. Well, it was my first date, and I was nervous, so she probably felt the same way. I booked a Vietnamese restaurant, keeping in mind her preferences. This was also thanks to Alex's advice. Even after we arrived and settled at the restaurant, she seemed a bit jittery. She seemed disinterested in what I was saying, and I stopped. I wanted to feel sad. The conversation wasn't flowing, and she wasn't eating much despite ordering a course filled with her favorite dishes. She seemed to find dining with me very unpleasant. She must have agreed to this date reluctantly because of Alex. As I thought about this, I started to feel more and more downcast. I had mustered up all my courage, but it felt like I had swung at thin air. "I'm sorry." "Sorry. I think I forced you into having this meal with me," I said, putting down my chopsticks. Evelyn, who seemed surprised, looked at me. It might be the first time today that our eyes met squarely. "I'm sorry, too. I wasn't really paying attention," she quickly apologized. Being considered by someone younger made me feel pathetic. It must have shown on my face. She looked at me with a truly apologetic face. "I promise I won't invite you out again, so please relax," I said, managing a smile. In response, she placed her hands together and bowed her head in front of me. "I'm really sorry. I'm so distracted thinking about Alex's date," Evelyn said, bowing as if praying to me, apologizing again and again. Tonight, it seemed Alex was also going on a date with a girl, and apparently, it would be their first time going out, just the two of them. Alex was undoubtedly popular, but he never had a girlfriend. He told me once that he didn't want to bother the person he liked because he often had to be mindful on dates. That's why he didn't have a girlfriend. So this was Alex's first date. I could understand why my sister Evelyn was on edge. I mean, there are many obstacles like restrooms, steps, and stuff, right? I'm just worried if Alex might mess up in front of the girl he likes. Considering this, I made a suggestion to Evelyn. Well then, let's go and secretly watch over Alex's date. Evelyn looked puzzled at my suggestion and exclaimed, "Huh." She probably never imagined that I would suggest such a thing. I quickly stood up with the bill in my hand. "You know where they're having their date, right?" I asked. Evelyn nodded affirmatively and took my hand. I had heard that she did wood carving, and her palm, full of calluses, proved that she was serious about it. I was somewhat pleased to discover this new side of her. The place where Alex and his date were was close to the restaurant where we were dining. It was an Italian restaurant, well equipped with accessibility features. I had gone there with Alex a few times. Peering through the large window, I could see Alex and her. People passing by gave us suspicious looks as we hid across the busy street, secretly watching them. From what we could see, there didn't seem to be any problems. He was with a cute girl reminiscent of cotton candy. They looked like a perfect couple. I thought Evelyn's concerns were unfounded, but as she continued to intently watch the two of them, Evelyn's expression was dead serious. At that moment, I wondered if this might be the reason for the rumors about her past as a delinquent. "Hey, can I ask you something?" I asked. "What?" "I'm a bit busy right now," she replied, still focused on watching Alex. Watching over Alex in his company, Evelyn was indifferent to my questioning. "Is the rumor about you being a former delinquent true?" "What? Are you crazy? You just asked this to me." Taken aback by my question, Evelyn unintentionally stood up and shouted. Realizing that she would be noticed by Alex and his date if she wasn't quiet, she quickly crouched down and glared at me. "I don't fully understand what delinquent means, but I am not one," she said. So, I asked her why such a rumor had spread. She puckered her lips in irritation. "The reason for it all was a fight with a classmate back in high school," she said. "There was a girl who often bothered Alex. One day during gym class, that girl purposely blocked Alex's wheelchair with her belongings, making it impossible for him to exit the classroom. Alex attempted to get past the items, but ended up toppling over with his wheelchair. When Evelyn found Alex in this state, she was livid and attacked the girl. She dragged the girl through the hallway to Alex and forced her to apologize. The girl cried loudly, refusing to acknowledge what she had done. Evelyn, who dragged the girl around while she was crying out loud, later became a feared entity. It's said that this is where the rumors of her being a former delinquent started. She admits that she may have gone too far, but smiled and said she had no regrets. She probably thought that girl was trying to get Alex's attention. Evelyn said she also came to that conclusion as an adult, but she couldn't forgive it. So the supposed ex-delinquent sister was just a sister who loved her little brother. The misunderstanding somehow made me chuckle. As I was laughing quietly, Evelyn smacked my back. "Evelyn, would you seriously consider dating me? I know I'm like an old man to you, but what do you think?" She widened her eyes in surprise at my confession while I was crouching hidden behind the shrubs. No good. I gave it another push, and Evelyn stood up, brushing off the fallen leaves on her knee. She started walking, so I hurriedly followed her. As we walked shoulder to shoulder, Evelyn looked up at me from the corner of her eye. Then she said, "Show me that thing of yours." "Excuse me." "Here. Now. You showed it to Alex, but not to me," she whispered harshly. I gulped. "Show me that notebook." By that, Evelyn meant my notebook, where I jot down what I study about coffee. I had shown it to Alex once, and apparently, Evelyn had heard about it from him. I wondered why she wanted to see such a thing. While puzzled, I pulled the notebook out of my bag and handed it to Evelyn. Taking the notebook, Evelyn sat on the edge of a flower bed and started flipping through it. After about 5 minutes, she looked up from my notebook and smiled. You passed. What? I asked. Evelyn returned my notebook to me with a smile. I was clueless. Looking at this notebook, I can see what kind of person you are, Tay. I can tell you're very sincere and serious. Is this what they call hot and cold? Suddenly, my heart started pounding. So, I'm sure there are many things I don't know. But please take good care of me, Evelyn said, bowing her head to me. The sudden turn of events left my mind reeling. Does this mean you've agreed to be my girlfriend? I couldn't help but confirm, and instantly, I felt an impact on the back of my head. It seems she still had the habit of hitting first. That day, we talked about our dreams for the future. I had a dream of becoming a barista. Evelyn had a dream of becoming a wood-carving sculptor. When it comes to talking about our dreams, we both get excited. Evelyn suggested making a competition out of who could realize their dream first. I agreed. It was a moment that I convinced myself to become a barista seriously. There exists something called barista study abroad, where you intern at overseas cafes and gain professional knowledge as a barista. Half a year after starting to date Evelyn, I was in Italy. Even before me, she quit her job and started working as a wood-carving sculptor in earnest. I couldn't stand the idea of being left behind, so I decided to study abroad. Knowing that if I went abroad, we'd end up in a long-distance relationship, I expected her to stop me. But Evelyn kicked me out the door with a push on my back. I wanted her to say she would miss me a little, but her apparent relief was just like her. Yet, being cheerfully sent off made me feel like I was being brushed aside. She hardly ever reached out. After my internship ended, I kept dragging my return home and started avoiding meeting her again. I kept thinking, what if she's disappointed in me? Or maybe she's not contacting me because she found someone else. For half a year, another half a year, I ended up spending 2 years in Italy. I had also earned a few barista qualifications that are recognized in Japan. I could return home now, but I couldn't make up my mind. Plus, I was a little sad to leave Italy. I had been working part-time at the same long-established store where I did my internship. The chime of the doorbell rang out in the empty cafe, signaling the arrival of a customer. As I lifted my face from the coffee I was brewing, I saw an unbelievable face. It was Evelyn, who was supposed to be in Japan. She had become even more beautiful over the 2 years. With a glare fixed on me, she sat down across the counter, right in front of my eyes. "You've kept me waiting too long," she said, still glaring at me as she thrust a flyer in front of my eyes. The flyer was for Evelyn's solo exhibition in New York. I realized in an instant that Evelyn had achieved her dream. "I'll treat you to a cup of coffee," I said calmly, suppressing my joy, and started working with my hands. Evelyn seemed a little displeased that I wasn't flustered like before. "Well, you'd expect some changes after spending 2 years in Italy," I said. "Smooth interaction is also necessary for a barista." Evelyn waited for her coffee with a pout on her beautiful face. I thought it ruined her good-look face. I placed a latte with latte art in front of Evelyn. Upon seeing the latte art, Evelyn muttered, "Damn it." I almost laughed at her admirable frustration, but I was nervous too. The latte art on the latte I handed over read, "Will you marry me?" Evelyn stirred it violently with her spoon, pretending not to see. She drank the latte in one gulp with a look of indifference on her face. "I'll have to treat me to another 100 cups to make up for the wait," she said. "I'll write it as many times as it takes until you're satisfied," I replied. Evelyn seemed pleased with my words and nodded. Then, she whispered, "Don't forget what you just said." I got Evelyn's consent to our marriage 3 days later. When I murmured, "You fell pretty easily, didn't you?" she hit the back of my head with surprising force. I guess she remained aggressive for the rest of her life.